Hello, Flash Dagger here. This week's Daily Race C is trial mounting in the Group 4. The Supra appears to be the best car. I'm sure there's other cars that can be used. We gave it a go for about 60 miles to break into the 57s, a few more miles to refine it, and then another 100 miles to get a reasonable lap that was worthwhile putting out as a track guide. It's currently, at time of making this, P8 in the world. There's some areas where we make mistakes. We'll talk about those. Some areas where we get it really well done. Like for example, Sector 1, we're almost a full tenth faster than P1 in the world, which is Josete. And there's another few areas where we come off the second tunnel onto the long straight with a blind apex and blind runoff area. We'll talk about that as well and where to get the speed. Without further ado, let's jump in, see can we give you some help in finding your maximum pace. So we start the lap carrying 5th gear all the way up the straight, just looking out for this red marker on the left hand side. It's not a braking point, it's a lifting point. Okay, so you'll see there's no braking inputs here. This section is all about turn, lift, power. So we're turning in and we're lifting. And we're looking for getting our right hand wheels on the right side of the curb. I put an arrow here to the next curb because we're going to be looking to get our left wheels on that curb. Straight line it through here as much as possible, but avoiding the penalty. Now on to full power, straightening ourselves up and bringing it across the right hand side, getting those left wheels on the left hand curb, and we're lifting because there is an elevation which can destabilize the car. We want all the weight on the car coming down the other side of this elevation. Again, now we're on the power and we're looking for this left-hander. Again, turn, little lift for comfort and push out in the power. Do it like that. You're going to do that section of Sector 1 the equivalent of any one of the top 10 because it's the most efficient way to do it. So now we have ourselves straightened up. You can see the steering inputs are straight. We're lining ourselves up for the entry into this tunnel. Having successfully straightened up the car, we're looking for the end of this yellow barrier. That's where we're beginning to lift and where we're going to start applying the braking inputs to set ourselves up for this blind exit. So you can see brakes on at 50% now and we're already turning off at the end of the curb to try and come in here, and it might surprise a lot of people just how early we get onto the power because we can't even see the exit. Now whenever we watch at the end of this video the raw lap footage of myself chasing Josete's Ghost, you will see there's an alternative line to take where he actually carries more speed round the apex but is on the throttle later. It looks like rubber banding. We both have the same outcome, but we just approach that corner from different ways. Do it whatever way works best for you. I'm not here to dictate to you. I'm just here to give you some options that might help you. So now we're on the power 100% and there's no lift. We go right out to the far curb and set ourselves up for the next corner to finish Sector 1. I've identified this rock as a good braking point. You can see that across your hood cam, your chase cam, your bumper cam, how it looks for you. And the important thing here is braking in a straight line. Don't turn in when you brake. Look for this yellow signpost with a snake on it, and that's where you're going to turn in. You're going to coast it in and drop the second, and you're going to collect this curb. And once you hit this curb, fully onto the power, right the way out to the far curb and carry all that speed. We finished Sector 1 with a 32.0, which is a pretty fast Sector 1. So if you're going to take anything from this track guide, please work on Sector 1. It will set up the rest of your lap. Now unfortunately, this is our big mistake. Carrying the speed too much, dropping to third, we actually miss the apex. You want to be all over that curb. You'll really get a good view of this when we watch the full lap chasing Josete's Ghost. We lost about a tenth and a half, and that actually prevented us getting the 0.3 in the end. But we bring it into one of the most difficult and challenging parts of the track. One of the most important is a corner leading onto a long straight. This is very difficult and very challenging because just like the first tunnel where you have a blind exit, on this particular corner you have a blind apex because it's below the crest of the hill, and then you have a blind exit as well, so you have to get onto the power before you even see where you're exiting to. That can be a real challenge to people's confidence, and it just comes with practice. So I'm going to try and give you a line, but you're really just going to have to practice this and get your timing down and build up your confidence. So what I'm referencing here first is an arrow to the change in color and texture of the inside of the tunnel. So once your car is fully inside the tunnel and inside that new texture, that's when you're going to start lifting and bringing the steering into the apex, or aiming for it over the crest of the hill. Now this might shock a few people watching this, but if you look closely, I am already getting on the throttle for my exit, and in about 4 or 5 frames time, I will have full inputs on the throttle. The point here is, it's important for you not to wait until you're round the corner to see the next tunnel. You have to just go and commit to the exit off the corner to carry the speed. I estimate the difference between a solid A+ driver and a B rated or low A driver, who these track guides are really aimed at, or C rated, whatever you are. The difference could be as much as 7 or 8 tenths by the next braking zone if you are too hesitant to get on the power. So you might not be as aggressive as me, but certainly do not wait. So let's have a look at how it looks with full power. So full transparency, I didn't actually use this as a reference until I watched the replay, but there is one tree that has the full trunk invisibility, and if you're facing that tree and you get on the power fully and you have full steering inputs to the left, you should be able to make it round safely without hitting the barrier. As we power out up through the main straight, carrying the speed through 4th, 5th and 6th, at this stage, if this has been of any benefit to you, I'd really appreciate if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button or subscribing if you're new. So we carry the speed all the way over the crest of the hill, right down to the next braking point, which you'll see on the right hand side is going to be this yellow sign. Now the irony of this particular track guide and this braking point is I completely chose to ignore my own braking point. I was still in the experimental phase and I was really just trying to see how late I could brake to carry more speed, but unfortunately that was too late, and you'll see I just missed the apex by a couple of yards, and it really delays just by a fraction of a second when I can get onto the power. I'm on the 3rd now, but I could have been on a lot earlier, and it probably ended up actually costing us about another 10th. So there is a whole lot more time out there for me, but something of that shape will get you round. Now we carried on up the hill, full speed, looking to our left hand side at this cone. This cone must have been left back from GT Sport, but that's your lifting reference, okay? So that's where you're going to lift. Not saying brake, I'm just saying lift. Get lifting and then wait until the end of the curb, and that's where you'll be fully on the brakes. So you'll be full on the brakes, drop shift to 3rd and coast it in, using that braking just to trail you in onto the curb. And once you go onto that curb, right onto the full power, all the way out as far left as you can. The earlier you get on, the braver you are, the more speed you'll carry down this hill. So this is a tricky braking point because there's not really a great reference. It's just really that gap between the trees. So I'm showing it to you from all angles again, chase, bumper and hood. And at this stage, we're going to start lifting. No inputs on either throttle or brakes, and now we're braking in full. Dropping the 3rd, and we're going to try and catch the blue of this curb, maybe a little bit of yellow. And once we get onto the curb, I'm at 80% until I feel the traction, then I'm 100%. I could have done that a little bit better, but it's not bad, it's solid. So we just up through the gears now, carrying it down the hill, up to 5th, and we're looking on the right hand side for this mossy area. That's where we're starting to lift, and we're about to get onto the brakes. You can just see the braking inputs are beginning to appear. Now the key thing here where people get this wrong, and by the way, chicane is not great, it's the straight line braking the full length of the curb. That's crucial. Down to 2nd gear and bring it in. You can take a little bit of this curb. I don't get this perfect, okay? And you'll see that against Jose's Ghost. I would love to have been a lot more left there to line up a better exit onto the straight, but I have to make do with what I landed with. This stage here, up to 3rd, I'm making a reference to this section And the reason I'm making a reference to this section so much is there are various different curbs throughout this track that you can abuse and cut and give yourself a straighter line. That is not one of them. Do not cut that curb. It will completely destabilize you. It will give you dirty tires. It will throw your car out to the left. Use the curb. Do not take any grass. Now, as we push out in third gear to finish the lap, we are going to finish this video by watching the entire lap at full speed from the raw footage, chasing Jose's ghost. It's an interesting watch and shows exactly where we gain and where we lose some time. I really hope you've benefited from this, and in the words of Charles Perallo, this is Flash Dagger. Please subscribe if you've learned something. Thank you.